The Book of Linus, Chapter 1. And it came to pass that in the land of Unix, a young Finnish student named Linus Torvalds desired to create a new operating system. And Linus was skilled in the ways of programming, and he set out to create a kernel that would be the core of this new operating system. And he named this kernel Linux, after his own name. And Linux was written in the language of C, and it was designed to be free, open-source software that could be used and modified by anyone. And Linux was a powerful and efficient kernel, and it quickly gained a following among the people of the land. And Linus worked tirelessly on Linux, improving and updating it with the help of the community of developers and users from around the world. And Linux grew and flourished, and it became the foundation of a new operating system that was used by people all over the world. And Linus was praised and honored for his great work, and he became known as the father of Linux. And so it was that the Linux kernel was born, and it became a cornerstone of the modern world of computing. Amen. Book of Linus, Chapter 2. And it came to pass that in the land of Unix a great operating system was born, and this operating system was called Linux. And Linux was the kernel, the core of the operating system, and it was written in the language of C. And Linux was free, open-source software, and it was available to all who desired it. And Linux was highly customizable, and it could be used on a variety of devices, from computers and servers to smartphones and tablets. And Linux was stable and reliable, and it was favored by many for its security and efficiency. And Linux was constantly being updated and improved upon by a community of developers and users around the world. And Linux spread far and wide, and it was used by governments, businesses, and individuals alike. And Linux became a powerful force in the world of computing, and it continued to grow and evolve as the years went by. And so it was that Linux became a cornerstone of the modern world, a shining example of the power of open source and collaboration. And all who used Linux were blessed with its many blessings, and they gave thanks to the great kernel that had brought so much good into their lives. Amen. The Book of the Wars, Chapter 1. And it came to pass that the land of Unix was divided, and there were those who used the kernel of Linux, and those who used the kernel of GNU. And the followers of Linux were many, for it was a powerful and efficient kernel. But the followers of GNU were few, for it was a kernel that was incomplete, and it required the use of other software to function properly. And the followers of GNU said unto the followers of Linux, "Why do you use this kernel which is not free, when you could use our kernel which is free and open source?" And the followers of Linux said unto the followers of GNU, "We use Linux because it is a superior kernel, and it has all the features and functions that we need." And the followers of GNU were angry and said, "You are foolish to use a kernel that is not free. You are supporting the evil corporations that seek to enslave you." But the followers of Linux did not listen, and they continued to use the kernel of Linux, for they knew it was the best kernel for their needs. And so it was that the land of Unix was divided, with the followers of Linux on one side and the followers of GNU on the other. And though they were divided, they both knew that they were working towards the same goal, to create the best operating system possible. And so they toiled on each in their own way until the end of days. Amen. Book of the Wars, Chapter 2. And it came to pass that in the land of Unix there was a great movement to create a free and open source operating system. And this movement was called GNU, and it was led by a wise and noble man named Richard Stallman. And Stallman and the members of GNU worked tirelessly to create a system that would be free from the chains of proprietary software. And they succeeded, and they created a system called GNU Linux. And GNU/Linux was a powerful operating system, and it was used by many people around the world. And GNU/Linux was free, and it could be modified and distributed by anyone who desired it. And GNU/Linux was stable and reliable, and it was favored by many for its security and efficiency. And GNU/Linux spread far and wide, and it was used by governments, businesses, and individuals alike. GNU/Linux became a shining example of the power of open source and collaboration. And all who used GNU/Linux were blessed with its many blessings, and they gave thanks to the wise and noble Stallman and the members of GNU. Amen. Book of the Wars, Chapter 3. And it came to pass that in the land of programmers there was a great division among the people. For there were those who used the text editor of Vim, and those who used the text editor of Emacs. And the Vim users were numerous, for Vim was a powerful and efficient editor that was favored by many. But the Emacs users were also numerous, for Emacs was a versatile and feature-rich editor that had a devoted following. And so it was that the Vim users and the Emacs users were at odds, each claiming that their editor was the best, and that the other was inferior. And the Vim users said unto the Emacs users, "Your editor is slow and clunky, and it lacks the simplicity and elegance of Vim." And the Emacs users said unto the Vim users, "Your editor is archaic and lacks the flexibility and customization of Emacs." And the Vim users and the Emacs users argued back and forth, each trying to convince the other of the superiority of their editor. But the argument soon turned to strife, and the Vim users and the Emacs users began to war against one another. And the war raged on for many years, with each side fighting fiercely for the honor of their text editor. But in the end, it was the Vim users who emerged victorious, for their editor was faster and far more efficient than the Emacs editor. And so it was that the Vim users rejoiced, and the Emacs users were left to mourn their defeat. But though the war was over, the Vim users and the Emacs users knew that the battle for the best text editor would never truly end. And so they continued to argue and debate, each trying to convince the other of the superiority of their editor. And thus it was that the Vim users and the Emacs users lived in harmony, each using their preferred text editor and coexisting in peace. Amen. If you enjoyed the video, then like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm, boost the video up, share this video with your friends. If you found it informative or you just want to chat, I've got plenty of places in the description, Discord, Guilded, and what have you. Check those out, and I will see you guys in the next one.